grow the wheat starter, I'll need a jar like this. It holds 250-300 grams. I use white wheat flour. I use premium flour with a protein content of 10.3%. I use purified filtered water, and the water is at room temperature. We'll be growing it with a minimal amount of flour. Practically no leftovers, you could say. So I put the jar on the scale and whisk until the readings are 0. I add just 4 grams of flour. I also add 4 grams of water. The total weight will be 8 grams. Now I stir thoroughly until smooth, so there are no lumps. I cover with a lid, but don't mark it. There's nothing left to grow here yet. I leave the cover jar at room temperature until the next day for 24 hours. Just don't place the jar on hot utensils or anywhere nearby. Just leave it in a cupboard or on the table. Today's the second day. 24 hours have passed. Nothing has changed visually in the jar. I think you can see it. Nothing at all. Today I'm doubling the proportions: 8 gram flour, 8 gram water at room temperature. When adding a new portion of flour and water, be sure to mix our starter thoroughly to avoid lumps and enrich the starter with oxygen. And don't forget about the water. Always purified filtered water. Don't use chlorinated tap water. You can use either premium or first grade flour. And check the label to make sure the flour is fortified or fortified with vitamins. Such vitamins can hinder the starter's rise. This can affect the fermentation process. Oh, and don't use carbonated or boiled water. It doesn't help the starter rise very well, and the starter may turn out weak. We've mixed the starter. Today we've already marked it with a rubber band. Cover it with a lid and put it back on the shelf at room temperature until the next day. So day 3, the starter looks like this. It's grown a bit and settled. You can tell by the marks on the jar. There are small bubbles on the starter. It's more active now. The first few days, the starter has a strange, unpleasant smell, but it will settle down. We continue feeding the starter in the same way. I add another 8 grams of flour and 8 grams of room temperature water. I stir everything vigorously to avoid lumps and ensure all the flour is evenly moistened. While I'm stirring, I'll briefly explain an important point. Wheat starter is a living organism containing wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria. They are responsible for the dough's rise and the flavor and aroma of the bread. In the first few days, the starter, as I already mentioned, may have a sharp, unpleasant odor. But that's normal. This is how the right microflora develops, and over time, this odor will become much milder and more pleasant. Now our goal is to feed it regularly if possible, at the same time each day, and keep it at a stable temperature and take your time. Patience yields the best results here. I scrape the sides of the jar, cover with a lid, and raise the rubber band to a new level. I leave it at room temperature again until the next day. It's the 4th day. The starter has risen beautifully. Look, you can see its trace on the sides of the jar, but it has already settled and is waiting to be fed. I add another 8 grams of flour. By the way, the starter smell has already changed. It has become slightly alcoholic. I also add 8 grams of water and stir well. And judging by how the starter is growing, I think I'll feed it again this evening and switch to 2 feedings a day. This is the consistency. I scrape the sides, mark the bottom, cover with a lid, and leave it at room temperature until the evening, about 8 o'clock. Sweet degrees currently 23 Celsius. I need to wait for the starter to grow and begin to settle back down. It's the evening of the 4th day, and this will be the 5th feeding. The starter has more than doubled in size. It's fallen off now. It needs to be fed again. There are already a lot of bubbles in the starter. The process is going great. The smell is getting better each time. That means my process is going well. This time I'll get a clean new jar and continue growing in it. And I'll say right away that I use clean containers every time I feed the starter, and I don't have any problems with acidity in the bread. In fact, I've never had any problems with any starter. It doesn't matter if it's Levita Madras, rye, or wheat, but I know it's a very common problem. I take 40 grams of starter, add 8 grams of flour, and 8 grams of water at room temperature. You can throw away the rest. There's very little of it, and it's of little value yet. I stir it thoroughly, scrape the sides of the jar, mark it, cover with a lid, and leave it at room temperature until the next morning. Morning of the 5th day, 6th feeding. The starter has risen beautifully. Look, 3 times its original size. Now it's settled, and we'll feed it again. To fully grow the starter, I'll need 10 feedings. Keep that in mind. Not 10 days, but 10 feedings. Look, it has a wonderful porous structure. It already has a pleasant aroma, in my opinion, compared to the first few days. We'll feed it again. I add 8 grams of flour and 8 grams of room temperature water to the same jar. Stir well. Just like before, this is the consistency of a 100% starter. I scrape the sides, cover with the lid, make sure to mark the jar, and leave it at room temperature until it's at least doubled in size. Guys, it's the evening of the 5th day, the 7th feeding. The starter has grown beautifully to this level, but has already settled. It's been about 10 hours since I last fed it. You can see from the consistency of the starter, and you can even feel it, that it's already getting much better and more active. I add another 8 grams of flour and 8 grams of room temperature water, and stir thoroughly until completely smooth. Now we feed the starter twice a day, morning and evening. There's no exact time, but again I'll remind you to feed only after the starter has begun to settle. And again, don't put the starter in a very warm place, or it will go bad. A comfortable temperature for growth is 22 to 27 degrees Celsius. I cleaned the sides of the jar, marked it again with a rubber band, covered it with a lid, and left it at room temperature until morning. So it's morning 8th feeding. The starter has grown nicely and is just beginning to settle. I add another 8 grams of flour and 8 grams of room temperature water. Stir, clean the sides of the jar and close it. Mark it and leave it until next feeding, that is until evening, when the starter begins to settle. If the starter has settled a little more or less, that's okay. Some here, some there, no big deal. We're not baking with it right now, so everything's fine. It's evening, the 9th feeding. The starter rises beautifully after each feeding. Porous, aromatic, superb. We do the same thing. 8 grams flour, 8 gram water, stir, cover, mark and leave until morning. And if anyone's interested, I also have recipes for the Vito Madra starter on my channel, so head over and check them out. The links will be in the description below the video. It's morning again, and this is the final feeding. The starter is growing beautifully and has a pleasant aroma. So this is the last feeding before it can be used in baking. Today I take a clean jar, put 30 grams of starter in it, add 30 grams water and 30 gram flour. Ratio 1:11. As usual, I stir well, make a mark, cover with a lid, and leave to rise to the peak at room temperature. You can throw away any remaining starter, but I can't bring myself to do that, so I just feed it at a ratio of 133 and make a Danish pancake. It's perfect for breakfast or a quick snack. Look at this wonderful sourdough I've grown. It's porous and holds its rise perfectly. It's tripled in size. I can't wait to bake bread with it. And the first thing I'll bake will be ciabatta. I've already planned that. I take out the required amount of starter for baking, and I'll feed the rest. I have 20 grams of starter left. I add 20 grams of water and 20 grams of flour. Stir until smooth. I make a rubber band mark, cover with a lid, and I advise everyone to write down the date when they fed in what proportions and the time on a piece of paper. If you're not baking right now, leave the starter on the counter for about an hour, then refrigerate it for storage. If you're baking today, let it rise until it doubles in size.